Now the other side is manufacturing overhead. And you can guess that. Here, there is no word easily. It means you cannot easily trace directly to a specific unit of product. So in the case of like a car, what would be the manufacturing overhead? For example, lubricants, how much grease, because you just import or you just purchase a grease or lubricants in tons, and you don't know how to, and there is like a small grease is going to be used on gears and all the stuff, but you don't know how much. Plus the amount of materials that are used for janitors even janitors cleanliness process, for example, cleaning out the areas or washroom areas or the table areas, this kind of stuff. So that cleaning products, we don't know how much, because that cleaning products, even they are not used on this car, but even then they are used by the factory. So that cost must be allocated to the unit, right? Even though you are making car, but you are also using like office supplies, but that is office cost. I'm not going to talk about the office stuff, just for production purposes. The grease, lubricants, cleaning agents, this kind of stuff, we call this manufacturing overhead related to material, or we call this indirect material, right? Manufacturing overhead include both indirect material and indirect labor. So material I just talked about, like lubricants, cleaning agents, right? What about the labors, indirect labors? Like maintenance workers, janitors, their salaries, security guards. So can you find out easily that how much time the watch guard or security guard spent on one, for example, one automobile? It's really hard, because one day you are producing 3 cars, other day you are producing 4 cars, in good days you are producing 8 cars a day, and you are paying them on monthly basis. So you don't know that how much. Plus it is, you can find out, but it takes a laborious process, right? But if you see the cost and benefit, if you spend 2 hours in finding out how much salary is attributed to one unit of product, it would be like, I would say that you are foolish. Why? Because your 2 hour salaries is like $2,000, and you are calculating per unit salary, or per unit salary you pay to the security guard on one automobile, and you took $2,000 to just calculate this kind of stuff. So it is not convenient, right? It is not easily to trace this kind of stuff. So we just categorize a journal, stuff, and you just included that one in indirect labor, right? So what is the indirect material and indirect labor in shirt manufacturing?
Maybe the material should be electricity used to operate the equipment and all. Yeah.
Electricity of what?
Electricity, yeah, of making shirt, making clothes.
Let me give you clarification. For example, if there are 2 meters to measure the electricity, one is for machine and one is for factory. For example, you turn on the AC, right? AC is basically AC benefit is benefited by all the employees, whether it's a head office, whether somebody is visiting it, whether you are working on the t-shirt or not. Others are, for example, working in making trousers, making shoes, right? But there's a common one AC. You understand? So if the meter is different, electricity meter is different. For example, the sewing machine meter is different, then it is a direct labor or direct cost, right? Because only electricity that is coming to the machines, powering the machine, there is a meter over there. But if there is no meter, the electricity is coming through one wire, and that electricity is powering the AC, powering your machines, charging the laptops, just like that stuff. So then it is really hard to find out how much electricity is consumed by one machine, right? If
Yes.
separate in many factories, if the plant is big, for example, automobile industry, when they are making or bending the the metal, so they have separate meter for that one, because over there heavy electricity is going to be consumed, so they install a separate meter over there. So that is a direct cost. But if, like in sewing industry, right, one line is coming and there is only one meter to find out the cost of electricity, then it is indirect cost, because everybody is enjoying the AC benefits, enjoying the cold water or hot water stuff, this kind of stuff, right? So powering the electricity is common for them. So in that case, that is indirect. What about, I'm talking about the material, indirect material in the shirt manufacturing.
How about the thread that Christine mentioned? It's, I think, indirect material.
Exactly, thread and the lubricants that are used in sewing machine, right? If you have a
Yeah.
sewing machine, in your house, your mom used that or your grandmother used that, so they use like machine oil in that one. So that is also indirect material. Also, the cleaning agents, right? This kind of stuff, these are called indirect materials. How about the indirect costs?
Like salary and wages paid to factory personnel.
Factory personals. Which kind of factory personals? All are factory, even CEO and manager is belongs to the factory employees. Factory salaries paid to cleaning persons. Factory paid to watch guards, security guards.
Yeah.
Right?
Security guard.
These are indirect labor costs. Right? And remember, these are manufacturing overhead. We don't call this indirect labor or indirect material. We call this manufacturing overhead. Right, guys? Understand? Sorry.
Yes.
Right, girls? But this is a girls' class. Okay, so any question regarding the manufacturing cost? Okay, and then non-manufacturing costs. So it means rather than direct material, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead, this is a special category, and we call this non-manufacturing cost, includes selling and administrative cost. So did you notice something, that in the name of this is manufacturing cost, and where the manufacturing process occurs? In factory, right?
Yeah.
So we also call this factory cost. And all the costs that are occurred outside the factory, we can call this non-manufacturing cost. So what do you think? The outside factory costs are either the marketing cost, selling cost, and administrative cost. And here we go, is why we are called this administrative cost, because admin department or head office department is not sitting in the factory, they are separate ones. So normally they are in some cities or central location of the cities where the managers can easily come and go, right? The factories are normally far away from cities, and head offices normally are inside the cities, right? Even their sales outlets are inside the cities, so it's away from or outside cost of the factory. Understand that? So the word non-manufacturing is basically categorizes that one. That is outside of the manufacturing premises. Even though you have a big area, so this department is basically the factory, and this department is admin, and this department is your outlet sales area, right? So you know that this is basically 2/3. If you are paying rent of like 12,000, so it means 2/3 belong to how much? 4,000, right? 8,000, sorry. So this 8,000 belongs to your manufacturing cost. Manufacturing cost, and rest of the 4,000 belongs to your non-manufacturing cost, right, guys? So we are segregating the manufacturing versus non-manufacturing cost. And by the way, did this question occur in your mind that why we are studying this, why we are, finding out the difference between manufacturing and non-manufacturing? Why is that? Should it be the question, right? Or not? Because we want to find out that if you are a manager, we talked about in our first class that managers make decisions and managerial accounting helps them to make decisions. Now, which cost they want to control? For example, under manufacturing cost, you have direct labor, you have direct material, you have manufacturing overhead. And you find out that your manufacturing overhead cost is 20%, while your direct labor cost is, for example, 70%, and direct material is 10%. Right? Or you're going to find out that my manufacturing cost is 80% of my total cost, and I have just 20% of my non-manufacturing cost. And you have the segregation of manufacturing costs is like that. And your employees are telling you that the material is not that good. So what do you think as a manager? Where do you see the problem is? If you think that my cost is 70% of direct labor, 10% direct material, and 20% manufacturing overhead, and you see, and if you want to control your cost or make it very efficient, where you start from? You start from